Frank had been a quiet presence in the office for over 25 years, a janitor who never missed a day, always arrived early, and greeted everyone with a smile, even when few returned it. He was in his 60s now, moving a bit slower but still full of quiet pride in his work. That morning, just as the sleek corporate cafeteria started to fill with employees grabbing coffee and breakfast, Frank accidentally spilled a bit of water near the CEO's table. Trevor Langston, the company's young and notoriously arrogant CEO, stood up with a scowl. Without a word, he grabbed a carton of milk from the nearby counter and, to the shock of everyone watching, poured it over Frank's head. A few employees laughed nervously. Most just froze, unsure of what to do. The milk dripped down Frank's face, soaking into his shirt. Time stood still. But Frank didn't lash out. He didn't shout or cry. He simply wiped his face with a rag, gave a soft smile, and returned to mopping the floor. His dignity intact, even as his clothes were soaked. There was something deeply unsettling in his calm. It wasn't weakness, it was grace. The kind that makes people question their silence. In that moment, the real embarrassment wasn't on Frank, it was on everyone who watched and did nothing. Trevor may have meant to humiliate a janitor, but what he actually did was expose himself. And unbeknownst to him, this single act would soon unravel everything he had built. Later that afternoon, the office buzz had shifted, but the image of milk dripping down Frank's face lingered like a ghost in the halls. In the small, dimly lit break room, Frank sat alone with his sandwich, as if nothing had happened. But Maya, a new intern barely a week into the job, couldn't shake what she'd witnessed. She had seen cruelty before, but never someone respond to it with such quiet strength. Gathering courage, she stepped in and sat beside him. "I just wanted to say. I'm so sorry for what happened," she said softly. "It wasn't right." Frank looked up and smiled, gentle, warm, as if comforting her. "That's kind of you, but it's all right. People forget themselves sometimes," he said. Then, after a pause, he added, "I used to run a small hardware store. Gave it up when my wife got sick. Took this job to cover her treatments. She passed 5 years ago." Maya was speechless. He took a sip of lukewarm coffee. "Cleaning floors may not pay much," he said, "but I sleep peacefully every night. That's more than some can say." Maya's eyes welled up. Without him noticing, she hit record on her phone and captured a short clip of his words, just his voice, calm and full of truth. That night, she posted it anonymously with a caption that would soon shake the world. "This janitor has more dignity than the man who humiliated him." By the next morning, the office was buzzing, but not with spreadsheets or sales targets. Phones pinged non-stop. Slack threads exploded. Frank's quiet words had gone viral. The video, posted just hours before, had racked up millions of views. It wasn't just the words that struck a chord, it was the dignity in his voice, the grace of a man wronged but unbroken. Outrage spread like wildfire. Comments flooded in from around the world, "He's a hero. That CEO should be ashamed. I cried watching this." Journalists jumped on the story. Within hours, news outlets uncovered more about Frank, his decorated military service, his years caring for his sick wife, his volunteer work at a local shelter. Frank Jefferson, the janitor no one noticed, became a symbol of quiet heroism. But the same spotlight turned ruthless on Trevor Langston. Reporters began digging, finding old complaints from former employees, HR cover-ups, even a lawsuit settled quietly last year. The internet unearthed stories of his tantrums, his mistreatment of staff, and his pattern of humiliation masked as discipline. The corporate board panicked. Investors grew nervous. Employees started speaking up, emboldened by Frank's bravery and the public's fury. What Trevor thought was a moment of dominance, milk over a janitor's head, became the very act that brought his empire to the edge. The world wasn't just watching anymore. It was demanding change. 1 week later, the once untouchable Trevor Langston sat stone-faced in the boardroom as executives and lawyers filed in. The walls that had protected him for years, his title, his wealth, his arrogance, were crumbling. The backlash had become unmanageable. Employees had signed petitions. Protesters showed up outside. The company's stock dipped. Sponsors threatened to pull out. Under pressure, the board voted unanimously to remove Trevor as CEO. His reign ended not with a scandal he could bury, but with a carton of milk and the quiet strength of a man he thought beneath him. Frank was called into the same boardroom a few hours later, not to be disciplined, but to be honored. The board, eager to make amends, offered him a generous retirement package, a public apology, and a symbolic role as the company's first community values ambassador. But Frank, ever humble, gently declined the spotlight. "I appreciate it," he said, "but I don't need a title or a stage. What I'd really like, is for that money to go towards something bigger than me." He paused, then smiled. "Start a scholarship. For the children of employees who can't afford college. For night shift workers who want to finish their degrees. Let's give them something that can't be taken away." Silence filled the room, not awkward, but reverent. Frank wasn't just leaving behind a job. He was leaving a legacy. And this time, everyone was watching, with admiration. A year had passed, but the memory still lived vividly in everyone's mind. At the grand launch of the Frank Jefferson Scholarship Fund, the company auditorium was filled, not with executives, but with families. Children clutched acceptance letters. Single parents wiped away tears. Janitors, cafeteria workers, and security guards sat in the front row, finally seen. Frank stood quietly off to the side, dressed in a simple suit, his hands folded in front of him. He didn't want a spotlight. He just wanted to watch lives change. Maya, now a confident junior executive, took the stage to speak. Her voice trembled slightly at first, but steadied as she looked at Frank. "A year ago, I watched something awful happen to a man I barely knew," she began. But instead of anger, Frank responded with grace. And the world noticed. He reminded us all that true strength isn't loud, it's kind. It's quiet. It's steady. She paused, letting the room settle. And sometimes, when someone dumps milk on you, the world finally sees who's really clean. The audience rose to their feet. Applause thundered. But Frank simply nodded, his eyes wet, a quiet smile on his face. Later, someone asked him how it felt to have his name on a fund that would help generations. He looked out at the children laughing in the crowd and said, "I lost my dignity for a moment, but I think we gained something far more important." He lost his dignity for a moment, but he changed the world forever.